Archangel Michael reveals why delays were protecting you. Don't scroll, listen to this, because this message is for you and your heart needs this right now. And the moment you saw this title, something inside you paused, even if you don't fully know why yet, because Archangel Michael is stepping into this exact moment to explain what never made sense before. And listen to this. Those delays that frustrated you, those pauses that made you question yourself, those seasons where it felt like everyone else was moving forward while you were standing still were never punishment, never rejection, never a sign that you were forgotten. They were protection working quietly behind the scenes, and your heart needs this right now because you carried confusion for so long without answers. And now the answers are arriving in a way your spirit can finally receive without breaking. So don't scroll, stay with this, because this message is for you. If you ever asked, why did it take so long, or why didn't it work when I was ready, and listen to this. Archangel Michael says timing is not about readiness alone, it's about safety, alignment, and soul maturity, and you were being protected from outcomes that would have looked right on the surface but would have drained you slowly, emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. And your heart needs this right now because you blamed yourself for delays that were never your fault. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you ever felt behind, forgotten, or overlooked, when in reality you were being held back so something better wouldn't pass you by unnoticed. And listen to this. Every delay intercepted a version of your life where you would have settled, compromised, or stayed longer than you should have out of fear of losing what you worked so hard to get. And Archangel Michael says protection doesn't always feel gentle, sometimes it feels like frustration, like doors closing at the last minute, like plans falling apart without explanation. And your heart needs this right now because you've been replaying those moments wondering what you did wrong, when the truth is, you did nothing wrong, you were spared. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've been seeing angel numbers during those waiting seasons, especially 444 when everything felt blocked, because 444 was the signal of divine protection and structure holding your life together when you thought nothing was moving. And listen to this. Those delays also protected your heart from soulmate connections arriving too early, because meeting the right soul at the wrong time can turn destiny into a lesson instead of a blessing. And your heart needs this right now because you've wondered why certain connections felt almost right but never fully aligned, why timing always seemed off, why distance, silence, or circumstance kept interfering. And Archangel Michael reveals that you were being shielded from bonding through wounds instead of wholeness. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've ever confused intensity with destiny, thinking the strongest emotions meant the right connection, when in reality intensity often appears when healing hasn't finished yet. And listen to this. While you were waiting, your intuition was being trained, your boundaries were being strengthened, your nervous system was being rewired to recognize peace instead of chaos as love. And your heart needs this right now because calm once felt boring or unfamiliar to you, and that's because you were used to surviving, not receiving. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if the waiting seasons pushed you into a spiritual awakening you never asked for but deeply needed, nights where you questioned everything, moments where you felt emotionally exposed, times where old beliefs collapsed and new awareness slowly formed. And listen to this. Those awakenings didn't happen in spite of the delays, they happened because of them. And Archangel Michael says the universe slowed your external life so your internal life could catch up. And your heart needs this right now because you were becoming someone who could finally receive without fear, without self-sabotage, without shrinking. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've been seeing angel numbers like 222 during moments of uncertainty, reminding you to trust balance and divine timing, or 777 during moments of faith without proof, asking you to believe even when answers weren't visible, and listen to this. Those numbers were confirmations that what felt like silence was actually guidance speaking in a quieter language, and your heart needs this right now because silence once triggered abandonment fears in you, but silence was teaching you discernment. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you almost forced doors open out of impatience, out of fear of missing out of exhaustion from waiting. Because Archangel Michael says those doors would have led you back into cycles you already outgrew, and delays saved you from repeating lessons with different faces, and your heart needs this right now because repetition taught you awareness, but awareness has matured into wisdom. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you felt guilt for wanting more, for desiring ease, love, and clarity without struggle, because wanting more wasn't greed, it was alignment calling you forward. And listen to this. Archangel Michael reveals that delays were protecting not just your future, but your identity, because stepping into certain roles too early would have required you to abandon parts of yourself to survive, and your heart needs this right now because you were never meant to succeed at the cost of your peace. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've noticed that after all the waiting, your standards changed, your tolerance dropped, and your clarity sharpened, because that shift is proof the delays did their job. And listen to this. There is soulmate energy connected to your path that aligns with who you are now, not who you were back then, and meeting them earlier would have locked both of you into outdated versions of yourselves. And your heart needs this right now because destiny is not just about meeting the right person, it's about meeting them when both souls are ready to recognize each other without projection. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've been sensing a quiet shift lately, like resentment toward the past is dissolving into gratitude, because gratitude seals cycles, and sealed cycles do not repeat. And listen to this. Angel number 888 surrounds this phase, signaling restoration, balance, and return of energy you once gave away without receiving. And your heart needs this right now because what was delayed is not denied, it's arriving refined, safer, and aligned. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you felt a subtle calm replace urgency, because urgency belonged to the old season, and this new season moves by trust, not force. And listen to this. Archangel Michael says delays were the armor that protected your destiny while you were still becoming the version of yourself who could carry it, and your heart needs this right now because you're standing at the edge of movement again, but this time it won't feel rushed, chaotic, or heavy. It will feel steady, grounded, and right. And don't scroll, because this is only the beginning of the revelation. And Archangel Michael says the next part will explain what those delays were specifically preparing you to receive, and when you hear it, you'll finally understand why everything unfolded exactly the way it did. Archangel Michael reveals why delays were protecting you, Part 2 ***. Don't scroll, listen to this, because this message is for you and your heart needs this right now, especially if after the first part you felt a strange mix of relief and emotion, like something heavy finally loosened its grip, because that's Archangel Michael continuing to peel back the truth layer by layer. And listen to this. Those delays didn't just protect you from the wrong outcomes, they were actively shaping you into someone who could recognize the right ones without fear. And your heart needs this right now because you've underestimated how much you changed while nothing seemed to be happening. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you ever thought the waiting seasons were empty, when in reality they were full of invisible work, soul-level upgrades happening quietly beneath the surface. And listen to this. Archangel Michael says the delay slowed you down so your intuition could become louder than your anxiety, because if things had moved faster, fear would have chosen for you, and fear always chooses familiarity over destiny. and your heart needs this right now because you were once willing to accept half answers, mixed signals, and almost love just to feel chosen, and delays broke that pattern before it could cost you your future. So don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've noticed that you no longer feel the same pull toward chaos, that drama drains you instead of exciting you, that silence doesn't scare you the way it used to, because that shift is evidence the protection worked, and listen to this. Archangel Michael reveals that some delays were specifically guarding you from bonding too deeply with people who were meant to be chapters, not lifetimes, because attachment formed too early can trap souls in cycles of pain disguised as loyalty, and your heart needs this right now because you once confused staying for loving, but now you understand that love doesn't require endurance to prove itself, and don't scroll. Because this message is for you if you've been thinking about a soulmate connection that never fully aligned, one that felt powerful but unstable, one that taught you more about yourself than about partnership, because that connection was a teacher, not a failure, and listen to this. Meeting your true soulmate before you healed would have meant mirroring wounds instead of reflecting wholeness, and the delay saved both of you from turning destiny into damage, and your heart needs this right now because you were being prepared for a love that feels safe in the body, not just intense in the mind, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if the waiting seasons pushed you into a spiritual awakening you didn't expect. Moments where you questioned old beliefs, released old identities, and realized you could no longer live on autopilot. And listen to this. Archangel Michael says awakenings rarely happen during comfort, they happen during pause, when distractions fall away and truth finally has space to speak, and your heart needs this right now because you learned how to sit with yourself without running, how to feel without collapsing, how to wait without abandoning your worth, and don't scroll. Because this message is for you if you've been seeing angel numbers more clearly now than ever before, especially 222 when balance was being restored, 333 when support surrounded you even if you felt alone, and 555 when change was unavoidable but necessary, and listen to this. Those numbers were not promises of speed, they were assurances of safety, reminders that the universe was still moving even when your life felt paused, and your heart needs this right now because you once measured progress by movement alone, but now you understand that stillness can be productive when it's guided, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you felt guilt about being frustrated with delays. Because frustration didn't disqualify you, it humanized you, and Archangel Michael says even your impatience was heard, but it was answered with wisdom instead of immediacy, and your heart needs this right now because immediate answers would have cost you long-term peace, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you almost said yes to things that looked right but felt heavy, because that heaviness was your intuition warning you before logic could justify the choice, and listen to this. Delays gave you time to learn the language of your body, the way peace feels like expansion and misalignment feels like contraction, and your heart needs this right now because that awareness is what will guide your next steps effortlessly, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've noticed your standards rise quietly, not out of ego, but out of self-respect, because protection matured into discernment, and discernment doesn't need to explain itself. And listen to this. Archangel Michael reveals that your destiny required a steadier version of you, not a faster one, because what's coming is not fragile, but it is precise, and precision requires patience, and your heart needs this right now because you're finally ready to receive without chasing, love without proving, and opportunity without panic, and don't scroll. Because this message is for you if you've been sensing that the universe is no longer correcting you harshly, but guiding you gently, because lessons have integrated into wisdom, and wisdom doesn't need repetition, and listen to this. There is movement building now, subtle but real, conversations aligning, paths reopening in healthier forms, doors appearing that don't require you to force them, and your heart needs this right now because you're standing at the edge of forward motion again, but this time it won't feel like a test, it will feel like permission, and don't scroll, because Archangel Michael says the delays didn't slow your destiny, they synchronized it, aligning every piece so nothing essential would be lost along the way. And your heart needs this right now because the next phase will unfold faster than the last, not because you waited long enough, but because you're finally ready enough, and don't scroll, because this is not the end of the revelation, this is the deepening of it, and Archangel Michael says the next part will reveal how to recognize what's finally arriving so you don't mistake peace for stagnation or alignment for boredom. And when you hear it, you'll understand why everything had to wait until now. Archangel Michael reveals why delays were protecting you. Part 3 Don't scroll, listen to this, because this message is for you and your heart needs this right now, especially if something inside you keeps saying, this explains so much, because Archangel Michael is now revealing the deeper layer, the part you couldn't have understood before the waiting changed you. And listen to this. The delays were not only protecting you from the wrong outcomes, they were protecting you from becoming the wrong version of yourself while chasing the right things, and your heart needs this right now because you were once willing to contort, overextend, and self-abandon just to keep momentum, just to avoid starting over, just to feel chosen, and Michael says if things had moved faster, you would have succeeded externally while eroding internally, and that kind of success always comes with a hidden cost, so don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've ever wondered why the universe kept pulling the brakes right when you thought you finally got it right, and listen to this. Those brakes were mercy, because you were being spared from timelines where you would have outgrown the life you built but felt trapped by it, and your heart needs this right now because you once thought progress meant movement, but now you understand progress also means refinement, and refinement takes time, and don't scroll, because Archangel Michael says something critical was happening during the delays. Your nervous system was being healed, and this matters more than you realize, because love, purpose, and abundance cannot stay where the body feels unsafe, and your heart needs this right now because you were taught to push through anxiety, to normalize emotional tension, to call stress passion, but the delays slowed everything down so your body could learn a new truth, that peace is not emptiness, it's readiness, and listen to this. This is why you started feeling repelled by things that once excited you, why chaos stopped feeling magnetic, why you began craving simplicity, honesty, and depth instead of intensity, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you felt confused by that shift, thinking something was wrong with you, when in reality something was healing in you. And Archangel Michael reveals that some delays were specifically blocking you from entering contracts, emotional, relational, professional, that would have locked you into roles requiring constant self-betrayal, and your heart needs this right now because you've already lived that life, the one where you kept proving your value, overgiving, explaining, and shrinking to maintain stability, and don't scroll, because the universe refused to let you build your future on that foundation again, and listen to this. Those delays also protected you from premature visibility, from being seen before you were anchored, because being seen too early can attract attention that drains instead of supports, and your heart needs this right now because you were being prepared to be seen without being consumed, to be loved without being lost, to be successful without being swallowed, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if the waiting season stripped away false confidence and replaced it with quiet self-trust, the kind that doesn't perform, doesn't convince, doesn't chase, and Archangel Michael says that kind of trust cannot be rushed, it has to be earned through lived experience, and listen to this. Angel numbers showed up during those delays not to tease you, but to keep you steady, 444 reminding you that you were protected even when plans collapsed, 222 reminding you that balance was being restored even when things felt uneven, 777 reminding you that faith was required when logic failed. And your heart needs this right now because you're finally seeing the pattern instead of the pain. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've been reflecting lately and realizing that if certain things had worked out earlier, you would have lost yourself trying to keep them. And listen to this. Archangel Michael reveals that soulmate energy is extremely sensitive to timing, and meeting the right soul before you trust yourself often results in attachment instead of partnership, fear instead of flow, and the delays ensured that when love aligns now, it meets you as an equal, not a rescuer, not a project, not a lesson, and your heart needs this right now because you were once attracted to potential instead of presence. And the waiting taught you how to recognize presence as the real miracle. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you felt moments of grief for the years you spent waiting, thinking you lost time, when in reality you gained clarity that will save you decades. And listen to this. Archangel Michael says nothing was wasted, not the tears, not the confusion, not the false starts, because each delay removed a layer of illusion, until only truth remained, and your heart needs this right now because truth feels quieter than fantasy, but it lasts longer. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've noticed how differently you respond now when something doesn't work out, how quickly you return to center, how little you spiral compared to before, because that emotional stability is the evidence that the protection worked. And listen to this, there is a reason things are beginning to move now, even subtly, conversations reopening in new ways, opportunities resurfacing with better terms, connections aligning without force, and your heart needs this right now because movement after alignment feels lighter, not heavier. Archangel Michael reveals why delays were protecting you. Part 4, Don't scroll, listen to this. Because this message is for you and your heart needs this right now, especially if you've reached the place where impatience finally softened into curiosity, because Archangel Michael is revealing the layer that only appears once resentment fades, the truth that the delays didn't just protect your future, they protected your alignment. And listen to this. Alignment is fragile when it's forming, and if life had accelerated before your inner compass stabilized, you would have mistaken momentum for meaning and movement for destiny, and your heart needs this right now because you once chased outcomes to prove you were okay, to prove you were chosen, to prove you hadn't wasted time. And Michael says the universe slowed you down to break the habit of self-justification so your choices could finally come from truth instead of fear, so don't scroll. Because this message is for you if you've noticed that your urgency dissolved and your standards sharpened, because that didn't happen by accident, it happened because waiting taught you to listen. And listen to this. During the delays, your intuition learned how to speak without being drowned out by anxiety, and that's why you feel a pause now before reacting, a breath before deciding, a quiet knowing before committing. And your heart needs this right now because that pause is sacred, it's discernment activated. And don't scroll, because Archangel Michael says discernment is the shield that protects destiny when opportunity finally knocks. And listen to this. Some delays were placed specifically to protect you from almost right paths, the ones that look impressive, feel validating, and promise speed, but secretly demand compromise. And your heart needs this right now because you once believed compromise was maturity, but now you understand compromise without reciprocity is self-erasure. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you felt a deep relief when something didn't work out, even if it disappointed you at first, because relief is the body recognizing safety before the mind understands it. And listen to this. Archangel Michael says your body became an oracle during the waiting, teaching you how alignment feels as expansion, warmth, and steadiness, and how misalignment feels as pressure, urgency, and tightness, and your heart needs this right now because this embodied wisdom is what will guide you when choices present themselves quickly, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've been seeing angel numbers in calmer moments now instead of desperate ones, especially 222 and 444. Appearing when you're centered, because those numbers are confirmations that your foundation is secure enough to receive without collapse, and listen to this. Security is what the delays were building, not just external stability but internal safety, because soulmate connections, true purpose, and lasting abundance cannot root where the nervous system expects loss, and your heart needs this right now because you've learned how to feel safe without guarantees, and don't scroll, because Archangel Michael reveals that some delays were protecting you from being seen before you were anchored, from being loved before you were self-loyal, from being successful before you trusted yourself, and listen to this. Being seen too early invites distortion, but being seen when you're grounded invites recognition, and your heart needs this right now because recognition doesn't ask you to perform, it meets you as you are, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've felt your relationships shifting subtly, fewer explanations, cleaner boundaries, deeper honesty, because the delays trained you to choose resonance over validation. And listen to this. Archangel Michael says soulmate alignment at this level doesn't feel like fireworks, it feels like relief, like finally exhaling, like being understood without overexertion, and your heart needs this right now because you once mistook adrenaline for love and anxiety for passion, and the waiting healed that pattern, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've been sensing that opportunities are starting to line up quietly, without pressure, without chaos, because aligned doors don't need to be kicked open, they respond to readiness, and listen to this. Angel number 777 surrounds this phase because faith is now paired with wisdom, meaning you're no longer believing blindly, you're trusting intelligently, and your heart needs this right now because intelligent trust is what sustains blessings, and don't scroll, because Archangel Michael says the delays synchronized your timing with your integrity, ensuring that when you move forward now, you won't need to backtrack to fix what you ignored, and listen to this. Backtracking is exhausting, and you were being spared that fatigue, and your heart needs this right now because ease is finally allowed, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've noticed how quickly you return to center after disappointment now, because emotional recovery is proof of inner safety, and listen to this. Inner safety attracts experiences that don't require self-defense, and your heart needs this right now because you are no longer preparing for impact, you are preparing to receive, and don't scroll, because this is the moment where the delays reveal their final gift. Clarity without bitterness, movement without fear, and love without conditions, and Archangel Michael says what's next will not rush you, it will recognize you, and recognition feels calm, mutual, and unmistakable, and your heart needs this right now because the next part will show you exactly how to recognize what's finally arriving so you don't mistake peace for stagnation or alignment for lack of excitement, and when you hear it, everything will click. This wasn't time lost, this was destiny protected. Archangel Michael reveals, why delays were protecting you, Part 5 ***. Don't scroll, listen to this, because this message is for you and your heart needs this right now, especially if you've reached that quiet point where the question is no longer, why did this take so long, but, what am I finally ready for now? Because Archangel Michael is revealing the most personal layer yet, the one that only becomes visible when the soul stops fighting the timeline and starts understanding it, and listen to this. Those delays were not just pauses in progress, they were filters, carefully removing anything that required you to betray yourself to succeed, and your heart needs this right now because you once believed endurance was strength, that staying through discomfort proved loyalty, that pushing through exhaustion meant you were committed, and Michael says the delays were teaching you a higher truth. Strength without self-respect is not strength, it's survival, and survival is not the destiny you were created for, so don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've noticed that you can no longer tolerate dynamics that once felt normal, conversations that feel draining, expectations that feel heavy, because tolerance dropped as alignment rose, and listen to this. During the waiting, your soul was quietly renegotiating the terms of your future, rewriting contracts that once said, "Prove yourself," into agreements that now say, "Be yourself," and your heart needs this right now because that rewrite changes everything, and don't scroll, because Archangel Michael says some delays were intentionally placed so you would stop chasing timelines that were never yours, timelines shaped by comparison, pressure, or fear of being left behind, and listen to this. Comparison blurs intuition, but waiting clears it, and your heart needs this right now because you no longer want what everyone else wants, you want what fits, and fit feels calmer than fantasy, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've realized that you don't want success that costs your nervous system, relationships that cost your peace, or love that costs your authenticity. Because that realization is the fruit of the delay, and listen to this. Archangel Michael reveals that your destiny required a version of you who could say no without guilt, wait without panic, and receive without suspicion, and those capacities cannot be rushed, they must be grown, and your heart needs this right now because you grew them in the dark, without validation, without applause, and don't scroll, because the universe was watching how you treated yourself when nothing was happening, because how you wait determines what you can hold, and listen to this. Angel numbers didn't just follow you to reassure you, they followed you to train you to trust subtle guidance over loud promises, 222 reminding you to stay balanced when emotions pulled you toward extremes, 444 reminding you that protection was active even when progress felt stalled, 777 reminding you that faith matures when certainty is absent. And your heart needs this right now because those lessons are now embodied, not theoretical, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you felt your intuition become less dramatic but more accurate, because accuracy is the sign that fear is no longer in control, and listen to this. Archangel Michael says soulmate alignment was one of the primary reasons for the delays, not because love was being withheld, but because love was being prepared to meet you at the level of peace you now carry, and your heart needs this right now because you once attracted partners who mirrored your wounds, your urgency, your need to be chosen, but now you're aligned with partners who mirror your clarity, your self-trust, your steadiness. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you felt a subtle detachment from outcomes, not because you don't care, but because you finally trust yourself to handle whatever arrives, and listen to this. Detachment is not indifference, it's confidence in your discernment, and your heart needs this right now because confidence like this invites mutuality, not chasing, and don't scroll, because Archangel Michael reveals that some delays were protecting you from success arriving before support, from visibility before boundaries, from love before safety, and listen to this. Receiving without support creates burnout, receiving without boundaries creates loss of self, receiving without safety creates sabotage, and your heart needs this right now because the delays synchronized all three: support, boundaries, and safety. So what arrives now can stay, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've noticed that your reactions are slower now, more intentional, because that slowness is not hesitation, it's wisdom checking alignment before commitment, and listen to this. Archangel Michael says wisdom is the final upgrade before destiny accelerates, and your heart needs this right now because acceleration without wisdom repeats cycles, but acceleration with wisdom builds legacies. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've been sensing movement again, subtle invitations, renewed conversations, opportunities returning in different forms. Because what's returning now is not the same as what left, it's refined, safer, and aligned with who you are. Now, and listen to this. Angel number 888 begins to appear when energy returns multiplied, not necessarily from the same sources, but in the same vibration, and your heart needs this right now because what you gave out without return before taught you discernment, and discernment ensures balance going forward. And don't scroll, because Archangel Michael says the delays ended the chapter of overgiving, over-explaining, and overextending, and the next chapter begins with reciprocity, clarity, and ease. And listen to this. Ease does not mean lack of purpose, it means purpose without resistance, and your heart needs this right now because resistance once made you feel alive, but peace will now make you feel whole. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've felt a quiet excitement lately, not anxious anticipation, but grounded expectation, because grounded expectation is the posture of someone who knows alignment is active. And listen to this. Archangel Michael reveals that you are now able to recognize what's meant for you not by how intensely it pulls you, but by how naturally it fits, and your heart needs this right now because fit does not require force. And don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've realized that even the delays you hated shaped the discernment you now rely on. And listen to this. Discernment is the gift that ensures you never have to repeat those delays again, and your heart needs this right now because repetition was never punishment, it was education, and education is now complete. And don't scroll, because the delays were not the story, they were the training, and training ends when readiness begins. And Archangel Michael says readiness is where you stand now, calm, aware, grounded, and open. And this part of the revelation is closing with one truth you need to hear clearly: nothing came late, nothing was lost, nothing was wasted, every delay arrived exactly when it was needed to protect who you were becoming. And the next part, when it comes, will not feel like waiting anymore, it will feel like recognition, movement, and alignment finally unfolding in real time. And when that happens, you won't rush, you won't doubt, you won't look back with regret, because you'll know in your body, in your heart, and in your spirit, this is why it all took so long. Archangel Michael reveals why delays were protecting you. Final message. Don't scroll, listen to this all the way to the end, because this message is for you and your heart needs this right now more than ever. And if you've stayed until this moment, that alone is confirmation that your soul was meant to hear the truth now, not earlier, not later, but now, because Archangel Michael is sealing the revelation and explaining what the delays were ultimately guarding you for. And listen to this. Those pauses, those standstills, those moments where nothing moved no matter how hard you prayed or tried were not empty space, they were sacred containment, they were the universe holding you steady while everything else aligned into place. And your heart needs this right now because you spent years thinking you were late, broken, or missing something everyone else had already found, when in reality you were being preserved, protected, and refined for a version of life that requires stability, not survival. And don't scroll, because this final message is for you if you ever cried in private asking why God seemed silent, because Archangel Michael says heaven was not silent, it was strategic. And listen to this. What was being protected was not just an outcome, but you, your nervous system, your self-worth, your ability to recognize love without pain and opportunity without fear. And your heart needs this right now because if things had arrived earlier, you would have accepted them from a place of exhaustion, attachment, or self-doubt, and what arrives from that place never stays, so don't scroll, because this is the truth most people never hear. Delays protect destiny by protecting identity, and listen to this. Your identity was still forming, shedding the version of you that equated struggle with value, intensity with love, and urgency with purpose, and your heart needs this right now because that old identity could not sustain what's coming next, and Archangel Michael says the delays ended the cycle of chasing, proving, and overgiving so you could step into receiving without guilt. Archangel Michael reveals that you are now able to recognize what's meant for you not by how intensely it pulls you, but by how naturally it fits, and your heart needs this right now because fit does not require force, and don't scroll, because this message is for you if you've realized that even the delays you hated shaped the discernment you now rely on, and listen to this. Discernment is the gift that ensures you never have to repeat those delays again, and your heart needs this right now because repetition was never punishment, it was education, and education is now complete, and don't scroll, because the delays were not the story, they were the training, and training ends when readiness begins, and Archangel Michael says readiness is where you stand now, calm, aware, grounded, and open. And this part of the revelation is closing with one truth you need to hear. Clearly, nothing came late, nothing was lost, nothing was wasted, every delay arrived exactly when it was needed to protect who you were becoming, and the next part, when it comes, will not feel like waiting anymore, it will without suspicion, without sabotage, and don't scroll. Because this message is for you if you've noticed that you don't beg anymore, you don't force clarity, you don't panic when things are quiet, because quiet no longer feels like abandonment, it feels like alignment, and listen to this. Angel numbers didn't just comfort you, they trained you, 444 taught you protection, 222 taught you balance, 555 taught you release, 777 taught you faith, and 888 now signals restoration, return, and reward, and your heart needs this right now because the season of protection is transitioning into the season of permission, and don't scroll, because Archangel Michael says what you are stepping into now will feel different from anything before. Not louder, not more dramatic, but cleaner, calmer, and unmistakably mutual. And this applies to love, purpose, and direction, and listen to this. Your soulmate connection, the one aligned with your destiny, could not meet you while you were still healing in survival mode, because survival bonds feel intense but unstable, and you were meant for a bond that feels safe in the body, clear in the mind, and peaceful in the spirit, and your heart needs this right now because peace is no longer boring to you, it's magnetic. And don't scroll, because this final truth matters most. Delays were not denying you, they were timing you, syncing your life with the version of you who can now recognize what's real and walk away from what's not without guilt, and listen to this. What's coming next will not require convincing, it will not require chasing, and it will not require you to abandon yourself to keep it. And your heart needs this right now because that alone tells you it's aligned, and don't scroll, because Archangel Michael says the reason movement is beginning now is because your spirit finally trusts itself, and when self-trust locks in, destiny accelerates naturally, and listen to this. Doors will open that don't feel heavy, conversations will happen that don't feel defensive, opportunities will appear that don't demand panic, and love will arrive that doesn't trigger fear, and your heart needs this right now because that is how you'll recognize it, not by adrenaline, but by relief, not by obsession, but by resonance, and don't scroll, because if you stayed until the very end, this is your confirmation. The waiting season is complete, the lesson has integrated, and the protection has done its work, and listen to this. Archangel Michael says you were never late, You were never forgotten, and you were never stuck. You were being guarded until you could receive without breaking, and now you can, and your heart needs this right now because the next chapter does not begin with effort, it begins with trust, and the moment you trust what you feel, what you've been waiting for begins moving toward you quietly, steadily, and right on time, and if you're still here, take that as your sign. This message didn't just explain the delays, it marked the moment they ended.